In this special edition of Virginia Beach Frontline Firefighter, Acting Battalion Chief Danny Schreiner, EMS Instruction Supervisor Karin Pettinger, and Fire Department volunteer Noah Cannon present an in-depth view of what to expect when encountering persons with autism in emergency situations, and ways to ensure the safety of both the autistic person and firefighters at the scene. I'm Firefighter Andrew Conlon, and you're watching Virginia Beach Frontline Firefighter. Here's your host, Virginia Beach Public Information Officer Art Kahn.
Hi, I'm Art Kahn, and welcome to this edition of Virginia Beach Frontline Firefighter. A recent study conducted by the Center for Disease Control estimates that 1 in 68 children in this country has been identified with autism. If you haven't met someone with autism, you will soon. For this reason, and in order to continue providing the quality care our citizens deserve, it's very important that you pay close attention to this special edition of Frontline Firefighter.
Units respond to 2508 Princess Anne Road, residential structural fire.
Be advised, complaint states there's an autistic adult in the home. Respond, no lights and sirens.
I copy dispatch. Ryan, when we get closer to the location, I need you to turn off your lights and sirens.
A first responder is 7 times more likely to come in contact with an autistic individual than the average person.
Well, with any call, we need to start with our size up. And knowing that we've got an autistic child or an autistic adult at the occupancy that we're responding to is very important information for us. And it even starts as to how we approach the scene. 25% of autistic individuals have a seizure disorder. So if we know we're responding to an autistic person, we should be thinking about pulling around the corner and turning the lights and the siren off on the truck. Because not only do lights and sirens, we know, trigger epileptic seizures, but it can also trigger a very scared response in an autistic person.
Autistic kids and even some adults are super sensitive to light and sound because it's blinding to them, it's overwhelming to them. So we need to shut those lights and those sirens down as soon as it's appropriate and feasible to get them off and keep them off throughout the call, even if the acuity of the patient is such that you might normally question whether or not to use them. If you can keep it to a minimum, it's going to be a lot easier in terms of how your patient responds to you and the kind of feedback that you're going to get from them.
Regardless of how quietly you arrive on scene, both children and adults with autism are likely to hide in a fire situation.
They don't understand the dangerous situation that is a fire situation. Where we would expect a member of the general public to try to get out of a burning building, an autistic person will not understand that danger. If they get scared, they're going to hide inside that house. It could be in a bedroom, and it could be in a very unusual location. Things like under a bed, behind furniture. Even for a small child, a stranger location is inside a clothes dryer.
Before you enter the structure to begin your search, know that extrication tools may very well be a necessity due to the tendency of autistic individuals to wander, particularly children. In some cases, this may require parents to take extreme measures to prevent these children from wandering away from home.
Parents will take extreme measures, including locking their bedroom door or locking other interior doors or installing security windows, plexiglass windows, because these children are so apt to try to wander away from the house that they basically have to be locked in the house. What does that mean for firefighters? It means that we need to bring our forcible entry equipment when we go in. We may have to force our way in. We may have to force several exterior doors. And we have to think about forcing our way out if our first means of egress is blocked by flames. But you may have to do a lot more forcible entry than you would for a normal fire scenario.
It is important to understand that not only are autistic individuals prone to hiding, the condition itself is often hard to spot.
I'm Noah Cannon, and I have autism.
Noah, who works for Virginia Beach and is even an honorary master firefighter, is highly developed and requires little support.
I ride on the fire truck. I have heavy EVOC. I have EVOC 2 and 1 and 3 and trailer. I have my CDL Class B with a P&S endorsement.
Autism is a spectrum disorder, which means a person can be mildly, moderately, or severely autistic.
Autism is considered sort of a hidden disability. When you first meet an autistic individual, there's no outward sign that they're autistic.
And that's one of the key things to remember about autism.
EMS instruction supervisor Karin Pettinger, the mother of 2 autistic children, says that while there are no outward signs of autism, there are mannerisms to look for in an autistic person.
A normal person, maybe when they're taking a test and they're stressed out, twirls their hair. Someone with autism, when they need to shut out the world and focus on one thing, will flap their hands, may rock their body, may, smack their lips. My son right now is clicking. And that's a self-stimulatory behavior.
This is commonly referred to as stimming. This behavior will not only help you identify autism, it provides valuable insight about the patient's frame of mind during an emergency.
A good way to understand what is it like to be autistic is imagine yourself entering a sports bar and you see 50 different televisions on the wall. For you and me, we can pick and select which TV to pay attention to. If you're an autistic individual, you're assaulted by 50 different things going on, and your brain forces you to try to comprehend it all at the same time.
It's like the sound is so much that it feels like it's going to hurt me.
If you kind of go back to the sports bar analogy, there's so many TVs and there's so much light and there's so much sound that what the individual with autism is doing is they're actually creating their own stimulation that's comforting to them.
Anxiety can be displayed, at least in me, if I'm I'll start grunting or making noises or start rocking, or I won't be able to give you eye contact, or I'll start looking like this,
Noah urges first responders not to interfere with the patient's stimming.
And I want to emphasize this too. Don't try and stop them when they're rocking. Don't do that. Please don't do that for your good, your crew's good, your call's sake. It'll ruin your day.
So let them rock, let them hand flap. As long as it doesn't get in the way of the care that you need to provide for them.
While Noah can offer helpful advice like this, most individuals with autism are far less articulate.
50% of all autistic individuals are nonverbal. Another 25% of them have extreme difficulty communicating verbally.
The best option that you're going to have for communicating with someone with autism is try to keep your questions and your statements as short and as simple and to the point as you possibly can. Slower is better. Keep your tone as even as you can. Try to make your words very clear, very distinct. Don't talk too fast. I tell a lot of people when dealing with my kids to think about the fact that maybe that first sentence got through, but after that it's kind of like the teacher on Charlie Brown.
It's like wah 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 wah, and I get overwhelmed and I forget I may remember it for a second, but it's going to go right out the other ear.
And so they've stopped listening after that first sentence. So you may have to repeat questions. You may need to soften your voice a little bit, even in an urgent situation. So that can be really tricky for us when we've got something that's going on that we really need information right now.
Your best bet is going to be talking to a parent or guardian.
The more information you can get from a parent or guardian in terms of things like allergies, medications, past medical history, that reduces the number of questions that you have to ask the individual.
And for firefighters?
Talk to the parent and say, hey, is it okay if your child is touched? How do they react when somebody gently touches their arm? And no, we may not want to touch that individual any more than absolutely necessary. But in a fire scenario, if we have to forcibly remove them, one of the best things you can do is if you have a blanket is to wrap them up. And they're going to feel safe and secure if they're tightly bound in a blanket. So if that is an option, do it. If we have to restrain them, they can get quite violent, and when they're scared and they have a meltdown, they can be extremely strong, physically strong. If you've got to restrain them, use as many people as possible so you limit the chance of injuring them and injuring firefighters. And remember, if we have to restrain them face up, and they recommend that you restrain one arm down to the side and one arm up at the head.
Restraining an autistic patient isn't always necessary, but constant attention is.
Where a normal child, you would bring them out of a situation that was dangerous and, you know, okay, you stay here. You stay here isn't going to work. You're going to have somebody attend to them at all times, preferably somebody who knows them, but if not, at the very least, somebody who knows that they are autistic and is prepared to watch for unusual behavior.
The unusual behavior she is referring to is something the autistic community refers to as bolting. Autistic children have a tendency to run off.
Particularly if you're on a fire scene. You've removed them from that dangerous fire environment, but the house that is on fire is their safe place. And if you leave them unattended, the instinct and the response is going to be to go back to the safe place. They don't understand that the fire is dangerous. They don't understand that the water is dangerous. They don't understand that the traffic is dangerous.
Traffic poses a hazard to both patients and first responders, but water is especially dangerous to individuals with autism.
No one seems to know exactly why, but if you talk to any autism parent, they will tell you that autistic kids are fascinated by water. And statistically, we have found that there's an increased number of autistic children who drown every year because they don't know that the water isn't safe. And they're drawn to it, and they will go to it in the night, fall in.
So there's a whole range of physical mannerisms that you may notice, but again, that varies from autistic person to autistic person, depending on where they are on the spectrum.
It is of vital importance to remember that autism does not equate to lack of intelligence. There is a misconception among many people that autism is akin to mental retardation based upon external observation, but this could not be any farther from the truth. 44% of people with autism have between average and above average IQ level, with a small percentage even possessing savant or genius level capabilities. Autism spectrum disorders are a group of lifelong developmental disabilities caused by an abnormality of the brain. These disorders simply cause the person to process things differently than most other people and to cope with stimuli differently. This creates, in many cases, difficulty in social situations or with communication. So a patient with autism may not appear to understand you, but actually is just having trouble processing how to respond to information they are given in a stressful situation. Regardless of where your patient is on that spectrum, Noah would like you to, at least in one very important way, treat them all the same, with respect.
If it's anything I want you, the firefighter, you, the paramedic, or you, the EMT or police or whoever, to get away from this videotape, is the fact that just because someone is different or they have autism, don't underestimate them.
As I was doing the research for this video, I quickly found that the more you learn about autism, the more there is to learn. Now, if you would like to learn more, I strongly recommend you take the online training course offered by the Autism Society of America. Simply go to preventeducate.org and click on the link and you can take the test. It's free, but they do ask for a $10 donation. Thanks for watching this special edition of Virginia Beach Frontline Firefighter. As always, we encourage you to send in any ideas or suggestions you have for future episodes to Darnell Evans using the information you see on your screen. In the meantime, remember to like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and watch us on YouTube. For Virginia Beach Frontline Firefighter, I'm Art Kahn.